Hello.
Hello, I'm Steve.
I'm Joanne. And today we are leaving the Hawksmoor guest house and we're going to drive up to Scotland.
Actually, we've had a lovely time here.
We have
really
had a
nice
lovely
guest
time.
house. You know.
Yesterday we had a drive around Coniston Lake, Coniston Water.
So let's just say it started with trying to find the ferry.
We had the most awful row. I mean, we've mentioned before about coming out of airports, when we've been to Florida and there's always a big row. It was nearly divorce yesterday. It was awful.
Well, the sat-nav at one point decided to take us to Romania.
Yes. That happened.
Now, and then, despite actually tapping in the name of the ferry terminal, which is actually only a few miles up the road.
I said to Steve, I think you've got this bit wrong because it says we've got 1,533 miles to go. So, that was wrong. So we never did get the sat-nav setting for the ferry. We just kind of found it.
Even typing it in, you couldn't get it right.
Like we were screaming at each other. It was really bad.
But eventually, actually, when I say Google actually came to our aid. But then two different sat-navs confused the heck out of Joanne. We had one taking us to Romania.
Which I was listening to.
Which she was listening to. And we had Google, which was taking us to the right location. Anyway, I think we went around the sort of town of...
about 3 times. It was a one-way system. About 3 times. And Steve was swearing at me. I don't know why. It was terrible. It was, and I was very calm until a certain point, and then I went as well. So we were both screaming at each other. God knows what. So people must have seen them.
Yeah. So anyway, we then ended up at the ferry terminal, which was very nice.
And I wasn't talking to him.
And we went across on the ferry. And
can I just say, before the ferry came, Steve got out to take some photographs. And so I thought, right, I want to go to Coniston Water. So I just tapped in Coniston Water. It came up straight away. So I got us to Coniston Water.
Yes,
actually.
But can I just say that the route to Coniston Water that you got us actually took us all the way round the lake.
Well, that's what we wanted to do. It was good.
Rather than what the plan was, which was to take the ferry over to the other side and to then go on to Coniston Waters, but still.
Well, we did. We did do that. And there's lots of places, you think at this time of year it might be packed, but there were a lot of places to just pull over and stop and take some lovely photographs and footage, which you'll see on this. And it was really, really beautiful. The sun came out as well, didn't it?
Yes, it was, which was very nice. And I mean, mind you, those country roads are a bit unique, aren't they?
Well, I actually think they're better than Devon roads, Devon and Cornwall.
That's because there was no grass up the middle.
Well, yeah, but they're all single track. You could get 2 vehicles. I had to back up a couple of times. But on the whole, it was much better. I wasn't a nervous wreck at the end of it like I am sometimes.
But there seems to be less appreciation around here for actually keeping to your side of the road. So despite the road being able to maintain 2 cars, or to keep 2 cars going along, the majority of drivers seem to be about a foot over our side of the road.
Yes, very considerate.
Fun.
A lot of big 4x4s who were just like, I mean, hands up, I used to drive big 4x4s, but when we went to move to Devon, I said to Steve, I can't have one down here because it's just too big. So we bought a small. Well, it's not 4x4 actually, but it looks it, but it's not. So we got a small one, and much better. But even then, even now,
But we meandered around. We did a stop off at a local pub, which was very nice. Had a nice cider and walked down to the Waters Lake.
Still wasn't really speaking to him even then, until we kind of drove off, and I said, because he said he was going to divorce me, and I said good, and because I wanted to divorce him, and then it was after that we started talking again, didn't we?
Yes, yeah. Yes.
But that's what we like, quite fiery.
Anyway, it was really nice. Coniston Waters is lovely.
It was beautiful.
And
it was beautiful.
We went
Lots of people canoeing and doing
surfboarding,
activities.
sort of the one where you paddleboarding.
Paddleboarding,
where you
yeah,
stand on it,
yeah.
you know, which was quite nice.
Yeah, so it was nice and
the scenery
beautiful.
was
The
beautiful.
scenery was magnificent.
And actually quite changeable. So we had, you know, some with peaks in it. We had some lovely colours on some of the more sort of scenery side, and then you had the water itself, which was
very
really
clear, wasn't it? Yeah, lovely.
Absolutely delightful. So we recommend that. We then ended up going to Ambleside,
Yes.
where we had a small walk around the town and also a lovely meal.
Oh yeah, what was the name of it?
I think it was Dodd's restaurant.
Who's Dodd's?
Yeah.
Dodd's, Dodd?
Yeah, I think it was.
Oh God, hopeless.
But it was
Little bistro. It was Italian.
yeah.
Oh, it was lovely, wasn't it?
Very
Fantastic
nice.
food.
And
really, really
reasonably
nice.
priced as well.
And really nice owner, which we got chatted to. He saw Steve's camera and said he had one
Yeah.
like it, and they talked about cameras for ages.
Yeah. But it was really good. I had a seafood spaghetti, which was lovely.
You had mussels and everything in that, didn't you?
Yeah, mussels are seafood.
Yeah. We must stop snorting.
Oh, okay.
So, and I had like a chicken in a breadcrumb thing with chorizo, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And like cheese thing on top with like spaghetti and everything. It was lovely. It was really, really nice. So we had that. And you had sticky toffee pudding. Or was it sticky toffee pudding?
You decided to be good.
I was decided to be good and didn't have one.
And there was a pie shop there, an apple pie shop.
Yeah.
Which
Was it apple
apparently,
pie or apple cake?
I think it was apple pie. It was called the
Anyway,
apple
they're
pie
famous
shop.
for it, evidently. We didn't buy any, but
Yeah.
it's famous for that.
So, as you will have seen in the last vlog, we had a superb breakfast at the Hawksworth guest house. Really nice. Filled me up for the day, and I decided that I would now go out, take a bit of a stroll and try and work off some of that excess. So I came out of the hotel and I swung a right, the opposite direction to the way that we'd gone the previous night, and headed down the road. As I walked along, I saw a little footpath running beside some cottages, and I went down that footpath to a metal gate. The view beyond it looked quite interesting. There were lots of vegetation and forest, and I thought I'd explore a little bit further, see what it held. I was also trying to find the source of the water noise that I'd heard from the hotel. I wanted to see if there was something near the hotel that looked interesting. Considering we were only metres away from the main road that ran between Windermere and Bowness-on-Windermere, this was actually quite an incredible space. There was a brook, which was probably the source of the water noise that I'd heard of from the hotel, that meandered through a relatively small landscape. The area seemed to be largely frequented by dog walkers, and it was really nice, and I decided to explore a little bit further. And the area around the brook was covered by a layer of leaves, and the bank was relatively steep. Still, I was able to get down to the brook by holding on to some of the fallen trees, and was able to explore that area in a little bit more detail. We all get accustomed to seeing the greenery as we speed along the road, but up close it takes on a completely different form. So there were a number of trees that had fallen, and their roots made a very interesting abstract architectural statement. They were covered in moss and lichen, and that gave them a really interesting set of textures as well. I love it. Those sorts of organic shapes that nature creates are absolutely fantastic. This area wasn't large. It seemed to be a footpath between the main road that the hotel was on and a slightly more countrified road on the other side. And
it was just a nice area. It was nice to get out, nice to have a walk, nice for what was a very tranquil space. The babbling of the brook as it meandered through the landscape really set this area apart. If you're enjoying this or our other content, we would really appreciate it if you would hit the like button or even think about subscribing and ringing that bell for further notifications. After all, it's entirely free and it helps a small channel like ours. So as I wandered around the area, I began to think about how come a space like this exists, and then I saw this sign on one of the walls, and it set out both what the area was called and a bit of a history as to how it had come to be a footpath. And at one end of the footpath was this old wall, and again another series of shapes and textures that I absolutely love. And right by the wall was a tree stump, and in the tree stump people had inserted coins, making quite an attractive arrangement. I also noted that a few people, unwilling to part with their money, had inserted washers instead of a coin. So as I got to the other side of the footpath, I reached a countrified road. I could either go left or right, flipped a coin and decided to go to the left, and I followed the road round, past the rugby club, a small older hotel and a few building supply places before rejoining the road that the hotel was on, but further down. And there I swung a right and started to head down towards Bowness-on-Windermere, which I will now show you what that area looks like. I must say that Joanne has really taken the mickey out of my artistic shot as I rise from behind the hedge. She says it must have looked really bizarre to anyone that was coming along. If you have a burning desire to get Christmas decorations in the middle of July, you now know where to come. The Christmas shop, Bowness-on-Windermere. Bowness-on-Windermere is home to the world of Beatrix Potter. Unfortunately, on this occasion, I didn't have sufficient time to go in there, as we were planning to go to Coniston Waters in the afternoon. Also around the town are a number of retail outlets that sold Beatrix Potter memorabilia. Bowness-on-Windermere is a lakeside town with a good selection of various shops. It is a major tourist attraction in the area, and part of the town fronts onto the lake. It has superb views, as you would expect, of the water, with receding views of the superb hills in the background, and looks really attractive. It has a very high Victorian influence, as you will see from some of the clips, and as you would imagine in a location that fronts onto the lake, It has a number of activities that it's known for, mainly on the outdoor side and also those that involve water. Around the town there were a number of places where you could pick up a cruise if you so wanted to, and looking at the queues, they seem to be very, very popular. The waterfront was a lovely area to walk around. There was always something going on, whether it was ducks flapping at the seaside or a young duck and the mother waddling along, or just looking at the boats. There were a real collection of different craft, both modern and those that are older. So, having taken in the waterfront on my brief excursion to this part of the country, it was time to go back to the hotel and to pick up Joanne. So I started to brace myself for the journey uphill. I hadn't gone far before I came across this church, St Martin's Church, built in 1483 and restored very sympathetically by the Victorians in 1860. The outside looked absolutely magnificent, and according to the guidebooks, so does the inside as well. It wasn't far from Bowness-on-Windermere to get back to the hotel. It was just uphill. Along the way I could see a number of local shops which were particular to the area, including a number of art galleries which had some quite interesting stock in them. There was also the selection of normal high street brands that you see in every high street. So despite a satellite navigation system that was directing us to Romania and an unplanned 3 times round the one-way system in Windermere, we arrived at the Windermere Ferry. So the Windermere Ferry is the only ferry on the lake. It goes from the Bownes side over to Far Saward and takes about 10 minutes. Both foot passengers and motor vehicles, including motorcycles and cars, can make the journey, and there is a fee for doing it. There is no defined schedule. The schedule depends really on a number of factors, from how long it's taken to load and unload the ferry to weather conditions, but there is an operating window, and all the details, including the costs, are available on their website. And a quick tip: if you want to find the ferry slipway, at least on the Bownes side, then Google is your friend. So we were heading for Coniston Water, an area that Joanne had recalled from her childhood, having visited there with her parents, as being extremely attractive and idyllic. So we thought that we'd go back and see what it was like now. So whilst waiting for the ferry, Joanne had successfully managed to set our destination as Coniston Waters, and off we went. As we circumnavigated Coniston Waters, we spotted this hotel stroke pub and decided to stop off and have a drink. So the gardens were lovely, very expansive, and went right the way down to Coniston Water itself. From there you could look at the waters, look at the superb backdrop. There was also a lovely, rather dilapidated pier with a load of caution notices, and as you went round the gardens you could see a number of cabins where you could take your drink and shelter from the rain if there was any, which for us, we didn't have any. And after a short while we got back onto our journey and continued our passage around Coniston Waters. It was then that we saw this trampoline in a field with a load of sheep. I wondered what use the sheep had for a trampoline, but I never found out. As we went round Coniston Waters, we took the opportunity on a number of occasions to stop off, take some clips and take in the beauty of the waters and the backdrop. We both loved Coniston Water. It lived up to the memories that Joanne had. They seemed to be very tranquil and very beautiful. There seemed to be quite a bit of activity on the waters, including canoeing and paddleboarding, as well as the small cruise craft that took people round. Well, the way that we'd actually got to Coniston Waters was slightly different from the way that we'd originally planned. So we ended up with a bit of a drive from the bottom of Coniston Waters up to Ambleside, where we had a quick stroll around the town before finding a really nice restaurant, Italian bistro, in order to have something to eat.